live. Hello to all my friends out there in YouTube land. It's your good buddy Philtastic Phil here. Welcome back to the channel. Oh, let me mute myself there. So by all my friends, I mean just me for now, but that's okay. People are going to jump in. A little bit of a last minute kind of stream here, but I have a great guest. Oh, here you go. Hi, Neil. How are you? Yeah, a little bit of a last minute show here. I have a very special guest. It is Pamela, fashion expert. She's also my sister. But fun fact, this is not her first show, but is the first show that you've seen because we had done something like this for the first Hellfire Gala 2 years ago. Hard to believe already. But I didn't know how to use Zoom, and I only had audio. So maybe I'll release that as a podcast at some point. But Pam, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, she's having a little bit of a camera issue, so this is all you see here, but that's fine. So before we begin, Pam, why don't you tell us, or Pamela, excuse me, tell us a little bit about your fashion experience and whatnot.
I think, I got started in fashion just out of pure interest. It was something that I always was excited about and something that I gravitated towards, and to be able to make it a career. I focused more on retail development and sales, specifically wholesale, where you would, participate in showrooms and sell directly to the retailers like, a Saks and Neiman's and stuff like that. And I've been very lucky to be involved with big brands like Ralph Lauren and Prada and Montclair. And now I work for a more independent, startup where we were a showroom called Curio, where we focus on brands from around the world, trying to give them exposure and trying to, show the world that there's way much more going on in fashion than just the big brands. There's a lot of unknowns and ones that are up and coming who will be setting the trends going forward.
Yeah, and hey, look, for everybody listening, whether you're live or on the replay, Pam, why don't you give them your website where they can reach you, or they can reach your store, I should say, in case they want to get something for maybe their girlfriends or their wives, or look, if they want to wear something on their own, we're not judging.
Oh, yeah, we have some great product, and we definitely have some designers that you've probably never heard of because, we have over 250 brands from countries all around the world. It's www.shopatcurio.com. And if you have any questions, there is a chat option on there with somebody who will answer live.
And better yet, if you're in the Miami area, you can go ahead and visit the store live.
Yep, 3400 Collins Avenue. It's in the Faena Bazaar. It is a 20,000 square foot retail space, and it features men's, women's, vintage, housewares, beauty, accessories. So kind of a little bit of everything. We like to call it a shop of global curiosities.
There you go. So now let me ask you, just I'm setting the table for everybody. So how many comics do you read a month, would you say?
I would say none.
So Pamela knows very little about comics. We're not going to talk about the actual Hellfire Gala event. So this is spoiler free, which is helpful because I haven't read it yet myself. I know there's some big things happening and some of the bigger things going on. Marvel has already spilled the beans on, but we're not talking about that today. We're talking about the fashion, because Hellfire Gala, if you recall, was born basically out of the mutant version of the Met Gala. So Pamela's not going to talk about what is going on with the event. Instead, she's going to just talk purely from a fashion sense. So I had sent Pamela a couple of the pictures of the various variant covers of Marvel Universe characters, from all over the Marvel Universe. That makes sense, yes. For her to look at. And no, Neil, she doesn't collect trading cards either. Not that I'm aware of. I'll say this. Pamela, back in the day, did go to many Marvel movies with me. This was before they got very good. I think the last thing we saw was Daredevil, if I'm not mistaken. Just to give you an idea. And she sat through the first X-Men. I remember she liked it. Her boyfriend at the time, admittingly, who was a hairless ape, was confused by it.
Oh, he has way too many questions. I'm like, this is not that hard to understand.
But enough about that. So Pam, tell me, tell me overall, what did you think about the costumes?
So one thing I definitely appreciate about the costumes is I think that what they've done is really taken the characters, their, superhuman powers, let's say, and their personalities, and really put that into their costumes or their outfits. I do actually do appreciate some of these as well, where I feel like, you see Venom. I think you're so used to seeing Venom with a mask on, and it's nice to see him personified, and kind of taking this look, like making his outfit high fashion. And everybody knows that Venom, I mean, his outfit is him. I mean, it is the character. It
Yep.
is what turns him into Venom.
I can't
So,
do the screen share, so I'm just gonna I brought it up on my iPad just to show everybody, just in case
yeah,
they don't
because
know what we're
I
talking
find
about.
that very interesting that, that is someone who, Venom is a character who very much, the costume makes or breaks Venom. It is what makes him Venom. But here they made him into a person, and it's somebody that you can say, oh wow, like he really is a person. He's not just this character. And I love the take on the teeth and kind of having it around his neck. They really made it sort of more high fashion. I thought that one was super interesting.
Nice.
I also think there's definitely a nod to, fashion in general and where things are going. If you were to look at Moon Knight and you see this very clean aesthetic, very modern, it almost feels very like Jerry Lorenzo, Feel of God, Fear of God, where it's like this quiet sort of elevated luxury. Um, I feel like that's probably one of the more modern takes that I see out of all of these, where it's not so much a costume and more of like real people clothes, let's say.
Yeah,
Um,
I was gonna say, didn't Kim Kardashian at some point wear something that her face was covered and everything like that?
well, yeah, she had the partnership with Balenciaga, and I think her whole thing around that was, I forget what the theme was for Met Gala that year, but it was really making a statement, um, where, she's so famous, you don't even need to see her face, you know? But I think this could be a cool take on that as well. The shoes actually look like the Balenciaga sneakers as well, the sock sneakers.
In the Moon Knight ones, yeah.
Hmm.
Okay.
Ghost Rider, I was like a little underwhelmed because I do feel like it's too close to what he always looks like. It doesn't seem special to me. Doesn't seem like there was a lot of effort in it. Not as much as you see, like, you go to the next slide with Guardians of the Galaxy.
Which
And
with Nova, you mean?
yeah, I feel like, this is like a really cool take on like, especially because men's fashion, I would say, in the past few years has really taken a turn where it's becoming just as prominent or more prominent as female fashion, where they're really trying to push the envelope. And an outfit like this to me speaks to someone like, when you see a Harry Styles on the carpet or you see a Jared Leto who likes to push the envelope and mix a little bit of the feminine with the masculine. I think this is a very good example of that. It almost looks like something Jared Leto would wear on a red carpet.
And just for those who might not know, everybody knows Jared Leto as the Joker and Morbius. For those of you who may not know Harry Styles, he was Star Fox in the Eternals film. And that just reminded me of the time I brought up Nova here.
I do think Deadpool's outfit is a really cool take. Um,
Yeah, Deadpool's surprised me, to be honest with you, because so I didn't think it was him at first. There is another X-Men character. I don't believe that you are aware of, Phantom X, and his actual costume looks just very close to this one. I'm trying to bring it up here.
I feel like it's very sophisticated for Deadpool. you
Yeah, and
know,
that's usually two words you don't hear together about. A word you don't hear
exactly.
together.
That's why I thought it was a little bit interesting.
I can't find the actual. Let me just check under variant, perhaps. Yeah. So if you're watching me for the first time, hi. But as you know, I stream on my phone. I don't use a separate computer, so I don't do screen share. I just simply have, in this case, my iPad I hold up. Unfortunately, I can't find the Deadpool picture. So you guys, oh, now I found it. Of course. And yeah, if you after the stream, actually, you know what? No, this is, you know what? I was right. Here it is. Pam, he got faked out. It's Deadpool's comic, but it's actually Phantom X. It says it in the lower
see,
right
now
hand
I
corner.
thought it was Deadpool, and I was so surprised because I was like, this does not look like anything Deadpool would wear. It's actually super sophisticated.
Yeah, because if you, I was going to tell you if you Google him later, but I'll just do it quickly. You kind of see it's really, well, I'll show you because I don't want to plant the idea in your head, but it's not far off from his existing costume. Okay, come on. I'm trying to find a decent picture. This one has a little bit of a taupe background, but you can see here. Hey, Durs, how are you? I see Durs and David are both working and lurking. That's fine. I won't tell the boss. Yeah, so there's Phantom X's everyday outfit. So in retrospect, at least in my opinion, it's like he put on a pair of shades and maybe a vest.
See, now that's a completely different take, because when I said Deadpool on it, I was like, that doesn't look like anything he would wear.
Yeah, see, what's confusing, and I can understand that. Yeah, it looks like he literally just maybe a pair of slacks too and some shoes. Yeah, so basically what Marvel does is to sell variants, they'll often put, they'll make another cover of the same price or maybe higher in price at some point, and throw another character on it just because people are going to buy it.
Yeah, right.
Was there anybody that you were underwhelmed by?
Well, I did say, hold on.
Ghost Rider, right? I remember that.
Ghost Rider, I mean, it doesn't look like anything. It just looks like what he normally wears. You have the cover here with Days of the Future Past. And I totally Doomsday #1, it says on it.
Doomsday #1.
It's she's wearing like a plum colored blouse. It just it feels like old school costuming. It almost looks like something you buy in a rent in a costume store.
What color is the woman's hair?
Black.
Is she kneeling or
yes.
Is she okay? Yeah, I think that's Kitty Pryde. Yeah,
not
it's like
really
a red flowery type of dress.
No, it's a frilly top. It reminds me of the Seinfeld.
Yeah,
top.
The pirate.
And that's what she looks like.
Yeah, Kitty Pryde. I'm gonna.
Okay, well, I couldn't even tell that was her from it. I don't think the outfit's very exciting.
Is that the one? Did I get it right?
Yeah, that's. Let me see. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, Kitty Pryde. Yeah, I could see that. Do you know what Kitty Pryde looks without you, like usually, or?
I feel like she's way more youthful than that.
Than this picture, or well, she's grown up a bit since. I'll say that. Let me take a pause just to say hi to some people who came in. Let's take a look. Durs, I said hello to. David, I said. Psychedelic Paul, how are you? Yeah, we had a little bit of a last minute stream. I started talking about it just late yesterday. Dr. Van Hoot from the Spiral Dimension. Yes, joining us from England. Evening to you, sir. Yes, it's still afternoon for us, but I appreciate you coming in. Transcending time and space just to say hello. Who else was a standout for you?
I do very much enjoy Miles Morales. I kind of love it. The Spider-Man costume.
Yeah.
I just thought it was like a really cool take. Again, Spider-Man's whole thing is his costume, like it's what makes him him. But I love the take on it with the purple and the red and the tuxedo pant. Like it feels like, he grew up and got a little dressed up. I did also love Emma Frost. I feel like she's giving off like Gaga vibes when she was doing that whole Tony Bennett, tour. Super classy, still sexy, but really sophisticated, but very much like her vibe.
Yeah,
really like that one a lot.
Emma is pretty much the trendsetter and really the mind behind the gala. Which one are you referring to? Because I know I sent you two of hers.
With the fur coat, I like the fur coat. I mean, the corset one is fine. I feel like that's just more of like a costume than this is actually like real clothes.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring it up here. There was one that almost had a spoiler on it. That's why I'm pausing for a second.
No
I encourage
worries.
you guys to look that up anyway, too. And, I don't know if you happen to see this through the course of everything. Hi, Trev. How are you? I don't know if you saw this through the course of your research or whatnot, but most recently at San Diego Comic Con, Marvel threw their first ever, I should say, Hellfire Gala in person. And a good number of people, actually cosplayed. Somebody from our community, Climbing Comics, who I guys encourage you to check out if you don't know him, actually had a homemade Sunfire costume that was pretty cool. But there was a couple Emma Frost, mostly from last year's gala. She had a very weird kind of headset. But I don't know. That kind of struck me as odd. If you have art imitating life and then life imitating art again.
I think this is also a really good time. It's good that you brought up Comic Con that's happening in San Diego right now. If
Last
any of
week.
you, whatever. I mean, it did coincide. I don't know if everybody in this community knows what Kith is. It's an incredible retail specialty store that has really come about in the past 10 years, I would say, with a very seasoned creative director. And he's known for doing collabs. He does collabs with fashion. It's basically putting fashion with things you would never think. It would be Kith with Coca-Cola or Kith with BMW. Just things that you would not think would translate into clothing and ready to wear.
Yeah.
But this year, he did a huge 60th anniversary capsule with Marvel. So if you go on their website, they just dropped it this past Monday, I believe. And it's everything from like varsity jackets to cool like t-shirts and sweatshirts. And it's definitely a little more sportswear inspired. But I feel like it just goes to show where comic books have come from and how they've now like sort of infiltrated other realms where he saw it as being something that's going to be collector, because a lot of times he's known for doing these drops and collaborations because they sell out quickly and then they resell for much more than they're worth. So I think that that's like a huge nod to Marvel saying, look how far comics have come. They're coming like into a different realm, really.
Yeah, and I've read, actually, there was some people talking on message boards earlier today. A good number of, I think there's the Kith shirts, have already sold out online. So I think the guy who was saying he's actually close to a Kith, I don't know if he has an actual location, but yeah, they are released. And yeah, Kith is Kith, in case you're unaware. Yeah, like online, I'm looking. They have a good number of sports jackets, hoodies. I mean, look, you're paying more than you would for your average hoodie. I could say that right now they have a very cool looking X-Men #1 inspired hoodie. I'll show up here. This is $185. But look, if it's that's what you like, that's what you like. That's what we
Yeah, and
promote.
the idea is that it's limited release, so they can kind of charge what they want because they're only making a certain amount of units.
Of course.
And I do believe they had a huge pop-up that was in San Diego where if you go online or you go onto their Instagram and look at their pop-up, it's amazing. It looks like you're inside some sort of X-Men Marvel dome. It's crazy.
Let me shift back to the actual gala here. I know that the Hellfire Gala typically revolves around some big event. The first one was showing how basically the X-Men have terraformed Mars. I haven't read this one yet, and even if I did, I wouldn't spoil it for anybody here. Does the Met Gala do the same thing? Like, what is I guess you could say, the cultural significance of galas in general?
So the Met Gala is really to raise money for the Met. And basically all the designers are encouraged. When you see these people and they're dressed and they're head to toe in one designer, it's because, Ralph Lauren will buy a table and he will choose people that he wants to be dressed in his clothing. And, Jacquemus will buy a table and he will dress people. And it usually has a theme just to kind of keep everybody on point and keep it fresh. But it's really to raise funds. And the Met is definitely an event that's highly coveted amongst, fashionistas and the art world, and it's really where it's grown into its own phenomenon now. But you always feel like who's gonna top who, what's it gonna be? And I find it's always interesting because fashion's subjective, so you never know what someone's gonna come up with. I mean, their theme this year was a nod to Karl Lagerfeld, and I think that some people took it to this crazy level, like a Jared Leto, who I totally appreciate because even though he's a little kooky, he does what he wants. I mean, he dressed up as Karl Lagerfeld's cat. He put on a cat head. I mean, there's not many people who would do that in public like that. But I also think that was a great nod to Karl, because I don't think a lot of people knew he also designed for Fendi. He had designed for he had his own line for a while, and I feel like, a lot of people were kind of taking his archives, especially the old school models, the Naomi Campbells, the Giselle, and they were wearing like these more archival pieces. So it's not only just something that's like centered on fashion, it's supposed to center around like, art and the social community and pop culture. So,
and I think to that extent too, I think that's really where the Hellfire Gala, the idea is that the X-Men are basically sharing their community, their home, with the rest of the world. Whether they accept it or not, of course, is another story.
Well, I think that's why they choose the Hellfire Gala, and it's almost modeled like the Met Gala, because a lot of people in the world know what the Met Gala is. So I think this is their way of kind of being saying, "Oh, look, we're just like you. We have these events too."
Right.
Like.
Let me ask: I'm going to go through a couple of them here that kind of came on my radar. This one I'm going to mention because it's I'm a little behind in my reading, so I'm not quite sure why this character is there. But what were your thoughts on Kingpin?
Can you flash it to me? Because I think there was one of him that I saw.
Yeah, kind of like to me, it looks like a Julius Caesar look.
Yeah. It feels, I wasn't in love with it. I mean, I'm sure you guys have all seen like Coming to America. It kind of reminds me of like King Joffrey Jaffer, like, which, he doesn't strike me as somebody who would be wearing something like that. I don't know. I was not really into that one so much.
Okay. How about, this is a character you might not know. She's a newer character, Hallows Eve.
I liked this dress. I get that it's Hallows Eve. It's supposed to be like this orangey color. To me, it's a pretty gown, but it's nothing like interesting.
Nothing groundbreaking. I get you.
Yeah.
And don't worry, everybody, that the iPad is okay. Speaking of groundbreaking, here's one I didn't care for. I'm interested in your take, and it was one I kind of had to really look at before I saw the character. Vision.
Oh, I just felt like there was so much going on with this. And when I looked at it, I was kind of like, he just looks like he's in a costume, like, leotard.
Yeah, kind of. This is one, to be honest with you, this next one is one that I thought you were going to point out as, well, let me ask you. I don't know if I asked you this before. What was the single best one that you've seen?
Oh, Venom's by far my favorite.
Venom is? Okay. This is the one I thought you were going to say is the winner. I think this one was well done, the Captain Marvel.
Well, yes. So I do like this one. I do feel like, again, this is something more of like, it looks more like something like real people clothes, especially couture. I mean, I think everyone knows Balmain jackets. It looks very much like a Balmain jacket. It looks very much like a Ralph Lauren Icon jacket. Like, I think I actually own a jacket that looks like that. but it almost looks like something you would throw on with like jeans. You know,
Right.
I thought that the jacket was cool itself, but not dressy enough for a gala.
Okay. We went through Emma Frost. We went through Miles and Moon Knight. Here's one. I'm trying to think. I'm not sure that I sent this one to you, actually. So you might be seeing this for the first time. Dazzler.
No, you did not send this one to me.
Okay. Well, here's Dazzler.
Which, like, I actually appreciate this one a lot just because I think now, you know, fashion's at this place right now that's very maximal. Even though the media keeps saying there's going to be a lot of quiet luxury, all you're seeing really lately is like a Laquan Smith who's like very up and coming, but he does a lot of these cat suits like this that are sexy and cut out or have like some sort of interesting embellishment. Also, Balmain is known for that as well. So I feel like this is very much like if you look at any of Beyonce's costumes right now for her Renaissance tour, a lot of them look like that, and I believe they're custom Laquan and custom Balmain.
Well, I know Gary B is not listening, but I know he'll appreciate that. I know Dazzler is one of his favorites. Just going to pause to say hello to Wellbore, our friend from Canada, who is listening while driving, and Steve White. How are you guys? The next one, I didn't know that these two are actually supposed to work hand in hand, but considering they're a couple, and now looking at them, they do look very similar. These are older versions of two X-Men, Cinch and Talon, who you may have known in the past as X-23 or the female Wolverine.
Oh, you did send me these. You sent them separately.
It didn't strike me that they're supposed to be together until I saw them side by side like this.
Yeah.
Because they are a couple, and their costumes do kind of match with the effects there. But professional fashion-wise, what is your take, Dan?
I do like them. Again, I don't think they're dressy enough for a gala, but they're very Rick Owens type vibes, which I love him as a designer. I think he has a cool, edgy, sort of dark spirit to him. And I think that embodies it a lot.
Now, here's one I know I didn't send you. And hold on, I'm going to zoom because there is a spoiler in here that I just saw. So I'm trying to zoom out of what's going on. You know what? I probably shouldn't even do it. I was going to bring up Psylocke. If you want, you can look that up on your own because I don't want to. There's again, like I said, there's a spoiler on it. I don't want to ruin that for anybody. I just ruined it for myself. But there you go. Okay. Jean Grey.
So Jean Grey, I was actually kind of surprised with this one. I like it. It's not that I don't like it. It just doesn't feel very her to me. I think of Jean Grey, I think more of like a phoenix. Like I don't know where the green is coming from because that gives me like Poison Ivy vibes, which is completely not anybody who would be in this thing.
Well, yeah, she's in DC.
Yeah. So to me, it's like I'm not really sure where they were going with the green. I mean, I guess it goes nice with the red hair, but I would have thought of something a little bit more sleek. And I get it; it's definitely more dressed up, and I appreciate that it's couture feeling. I just didn't get the green.
Yeah, no, you know what it is. If you look back at her prior costumes, it's the same color scheme, and I always kind of saw it as a kind of just like a take on her traditional Marvel Girl costume. It's like a green dress with a I think it's a yellow mask, but that's how I always took it.
Yeah, but then I always have this vision of her. Yeah, she's Jean Grey, but I always think of her as Phoenix. Like,
let me see it now. Oh, we did see the X3 movie. You're talking about when you say Phoenix, you're talking about the red design, or you're talking about something closer to like the comics design where it's the red outfit with the yellow Phoenix on the front of it.
More of like the red design, like not with the yellow Phoenix on it. More like I would think it would be a little bit more like I like that side of her so much more than like the regular Jean Grey side. I think it's so much more interesting and complex. So I wish they would have tapped more into like something like that.
You got to catch up. She's been doing a lot of different stuff, especially on Krakoa now. Here's one I know that I didn't send you because I didn't see this until now. I don't think he has his own cover. This is just a design here. This is Cyclops.
Yeah, you did not show me this one. It's very dark for him. It
Kind
almost seems sinister.
it honestly, it kind of looks like something out of The Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, like even Thor. I mean, his look, like I get it. Like I get what they were doing with it, but it was kind of just like whatever. It's just like he kind of put like slacks on. Like
Yeah, I don't have Thor's on the one I was bringing up here. But here's one. Oh, hold on. Let me see something here. Here's Hellcat.
yeah, okay. So I did not like this one. And the only reason I can tell you is because it reminds me so much of Doja Cat. And I just can't stand her on red carpets because I think she does a lot of things for shock factor. And I mean, I appreciate the way she pushes the limits, but then she like actually has them like make her face look like a cat. And I just think it's weird. And like this, the same thing. I think it's just too literal and it looks too much like a superhero costume.
Here is one that this article says is Professor X. I didn't think so. I thought this was what's her face? I thought this was Destiny, but I'm going to show it to you anyway.
Yes. So I saw this one. Kind of gives me a little Balenciaga vibes. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm trying to find some others because this one doesn't have it all. Like I know I sent you Iceman. Oh, here's that one. What are your thoughts on this one? As soon as it opens.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. There's an ad I have to get out of the way.
You know what's really funny is that I like it. I mean, I think it's like very GQ looking, but it immediately strikes me as something that like Beast would wear.
Well, he's a bad guy right now, so he's not there. At least I don't think he's there. Here's one that I didn't realize was a Hellfire Gala thing because it looks too much like his actual costume to me. But here is Bishop. So this is the first time you're seeing it as well.
Same. I was not really into his look. I feel like it does have like a slight nod to remember those like crazy suits Arsenio Hall used to wear with those big shoulders, like that very 90s look.
There you go.
Which is so in right now. But it wasn't my favorite.
Yeah, it looked, to be honest with you, just looking at it, it reminded me of you remember was it Rhythm Nation or Control that Janet Jackson had that huge thing with the shoulder pads?
Rhythm Nation. I mean, Control, she had it too, but it was very Rhythm Nation.
Okay, this next one I think is from an art perspective, is one of the better ones. I think it's my favorite art-wise. But dress-wise, what did you think of Scarlet Witch?
I agree with you on that. Art-wise, I think it's a very beautiful image. It's a stunning like gown look. I almost wish like there was a little bit more to it, but beautiful.
Okay, now this one, I don't think you know any of these characters I'm about to show you. I know I included it. Hold on a second. I highlighted it and changed the color. Come on. Here we go. So on Krakoa, Krakoa is where the X-Men live right now. There are 5 mutants that they figured out working together can actually resurrect people when they die. And this is the 5 with
I saw this.
Hope being in the front. I thought she was Jean Grey at first, then it struck me that you have 5 people.
So hold on, let me actually go to my picture because I have that picture on my phone. Oh yeah, I have a couple more on here that I definitely want to talk about too. Hold on. Let me just get to that one so I could actually see the big picture. Hold on. I don't know which stack you sent it to me in. Okay. So my personal take on this, I love the two outfits to the right.
Okay, so I know, let me see here. I'm not quite sure who those are. I know that to the left is Proteus, and then after that is Egg. I don't remember
Do
the
not
other.
like either of those.
Oh, you know, to the right, I think is actually Cypher. Might be Cypher. Oh, no. I'm sorry. Elixir is his name.
Okay.
And I think next to him, now looking at that, she's holding a, what do you call it? Sands of Time, and there's a melted kind of Picasso looking clock, which I didn't notice until now. That's got to be tempo because she can control the pace of time.
Well, it's very interesting because her outfit too feels very vintage. It feels like a vintage, like 20s Gatsby flapper vibe. But I love that it has that architectural element that comes across the back of her. Feels like modern and cool, almost like vintage and modern came together.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really appreciate. I'm not sure who you said that was on the end with the hat.
Elixir.
I just feel like menswear has been so prominent and has really found a place for itself now in the fashion world and in society, and just being way more. People are way more interested in it. So I love the idea of having this like complete look, accessorized. Like to me, like he looks like Harry Styles. He does.
Yeah, I could kind of see that.
This outfit in the front is a little too like Elizabethan, like damsel in distress type looking.
Yep, that's Hope. Yeah. And then you didn't care for, I know you said Proteus or Egg. I'll
Nope.
do it.
They don't look like anything that should be worn to a gala.
Eggs kind of looks like something very 70-ish, to be honest with you, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Okay, the next one I have is a character by the name of Exodus. And I just remember that the designer, when this was one of the first outfits that they showed or that was leaked, he was.
You didn't send this one to me.
I didn't send that one to him. I'm sorry.
No.
He was saying the inspiration. He called this his. I think he said like galactic Pope look.
I guess so. I mean, they like to do a lot of these capes and stuff, and I feel like that's what makes it feel more superhero. So if you're trying to get across the point that this is a gala and it's supposed to be, you know, something that's more about getting dressed up and being couture, to me, that's not it. That's costumey. That's still pigeonholing them into being superheroes when they're kind of trying to level with you and be like, no, we're more like you, and we get dressed up too, and we do these things too.
Here's one I know that I didn't send you because I didn't realize that this was a gala one either. Artistically, I think it's very well done. I'm trying to get a good look at it because the banner on the website I'm using keeps popping up. Here is Black Panther.
Oh yeah, I looked at Black Panthers.
I did send it. Okay.
I appreciate it, like, but to me, it just feels like regular clothes. I mean, it's fine. I kind of like it's like got that little bit of like an ethnic vibe to it. I like that because I feel like none of the other costumes really have that, or none of the other outfits, I should say. Because I think the focus of these outfits should be they don't look like costumes. They don't look like what they normally would wear. It looks like they got dressed up to go out.
Here is, and his kind of, to be honest with you, you mentioned that Kingpin was very coming to America. I feel like Black Panthers is also a little coming to America as well. Yeah,
it is because it has that vibe, that sort of nod to like African culture. But I really think it's just because of that wrap that's around him.
Here's another one here, and this one, to be honest with you, I thought it was the Goblin Queen for the longest time, but now seeing the insignia on her belt, it's clear to me that this is Firestar. I don't know if I sent that one to you.
No, you did not.
Okay, so let me get a better view.
it's cool. Again, I love the idea of that like bodysuit. Just the cape kills it for me.
Yeah.
And this is just my
And
opinion. I mean,
no, I know. And look, that's why we're talking to you. In case you're just tuning in, we're talking to Pamela, who is a fashion expert. If you need anything, by the way, for your wife, your girlfriend, or look, whatever you want to wear, it's up to you. Okay.
for yourself
Fabian,
too.
yeah, there you go. Curio at, oh, they do sell men's clothing too. There you go. Curio at Fabena Bazaar in Miami. And they have a website too. And don't bother Pam, by the way. I am her older brother. She has two other brothers, but she has been doing kickboxing for a long time, so she could handle herself. Okay, and the last one that I have to discuss here, I think this is one of the last ones I sent you. This is a twofer, Mary Jane and the Black Cat.
Okay, so I did actually really like these because I feel like this is something that's very true to being a superhero, yet feels like gowns. So I feel like that's the sort of vibe they should have went with from everyone. Where like this is me, this is how I would normally dress. I'm just going to a gala, so like I need to be in a gown, I need to be dressed up. So like I feel like this was a very good translation of their outfits, their normal everyday outfits, into what they would wear, for a gala.
Okay, and I should add, by the way, too, if you have any questions for Pamela, go ahead and put them in the chat. I see there's a couple people lurking here, so they might not be able to type. But I know that you didn't look at last year's gala with me. I don't remember. I don't know if you remember anything from the first year, but
I remember some of them from the first year, only because I was really impressed with some of the things that they had done. Because again, they didn't feel like superhero costumes.
I remember you really liking Magneto. You said you thought looked like Lagerfeld,
Yeah,
and Colossus, the whole fur jacket, no shirt vibe. But how do these? Let me ask you something. How do some of the better designs you remember from the first year compare with what you've seen overall this year?
I think overall this year, from what I can gather, like I said, I told you Venom was my favorite. I feel like these are more about the character, what the character would wear, the what powers they possess. Like it's more about them, whereas the first ones were really them like dressed up. Like it felt like a little more like I don't want to say disjointed, but more like they picked the outfit and it really wasn't focused on anything about them. It was just them creating this outfit for them, maybe incorporating a little bit of their power or their personality into it, but not like these. I think this is definitely more inherent, especially when you look at Venom and you look at the Spider-Man one. So
It,
like,
you know what it is too that I'm picking up on. I don't know about this year, but if I'm not mistaken, I think last year they had one artist working on all of the outfits, and that's the same one who just did the Mary Jane and Black Cat, and that's Russ Dotterman. Um, and I feel like he brings a certain vibe to it. I'm looking up one of the standout. I think this is the best one from last year. I know that you didn't see this, just to kind of give you an example of that, because I kind of feel like that's. Hold on, it opened up the thing. Well, that's okay. I kind of feel like that's what the vibe that you're talking about is. Hold on a second. And again, this isn't from this year's. This is just I'm showing the example because I feel like this is kind of what you're talking about. So this was his take on Black Widow.
yeah, I mean, and you can tell. I feel like, listen, if that very much mirrors what fashion is like as well. If you think about it, yes, you have these big fashion houses, but you'll have someone like Louis Vuitton who had Virgil, and now they have Pharrell, and it's a different lens, and it's bringing their brand into a different sort of light or different sort of perception. So I think when you have that's the whole reason why you have guest designers is because they bring something to it. So you can really see that from his picture there to what we see now, that it's almost like he focused more on that, where it was like he had this specific view. So then when you look at his other pictures, they're so like, oh yeah, that's him too. But that's how it is in fashion. You could, oh yeah, like that's like, when you refer to somebody's like style, oh, that's so Ralph Lauren, like it almost becomes an adjective instead of a brand.
Yeah, it's strange too. It just kind of hit me going back to what you were saying about the costumes reflecting the characters. Um, Not so much, I think, in the 90s, but I remember hearing artists talk about more in the 60s and the 70s that when they were designing these characters, that's what was in mind. For example, Wolverine's classic yellow and black costume, those stripes on the side, they're supposed to really mimic like a tiger print, or his original mask. I don't know if you've ever seen it, had littler ears and whiskers to
Yeah.
kind of look like a lynx almost. And even Spider-Man. I mean, Stanley was pretty. Well, not so much Stanley, I should say, but John Romita a little bit later on was pretty, adamant about, look, the webs are what makes Spidey, and that's why you'll see some of his costumes from that time will actually have webbing underneath the arms. So
Yeah.
I kind of feel like you're on the money there as far as better kind of character design in general. But I'm seeing here, I don't have any questions for you from the chat. So that's a good thing. That means you answered everybody's question before they thought about it, Pam.
I really do actually think as well. And when you're looking at some of these, there's so many similarities to designers that are so current. I urge you guys to like go look on, Instagram or whatever websites and look up someone like Rick Owens and you'll see his collections. I mean, some of these outfits here look like something he would design. For sure, especially if you look up on his Instagram. I also feel like where we reference like a Balmain jacket, I mean, go look on his Instagram. Like when I tell you, it almost looks like a carbon copy of something that he designed a couple years ago. So
let me bring it
it's
up online.
Interesting.
Let me bring it up online just to show everybody. You said Balmain. How do you spell that?
Balmain. Or like I would definitely look up Rick Owens because he's a vibe.
So yeah, I mean, I could definitely see what you're saying. Like this is just the Balmain website here, and I could definitely see that same type of feel. I'm wondering
if you look up any of his blazers, I mean, like it looks almost exactly like it.
Yeah, like this one. This one's really nice. I could see something like our brother-in-law would be wearing that first one.
Yeah.
But
so it's really interesting to see some of these outfits because they look so much like what's in the market now. We were talking about before I had referenced who's one of my favorites, I have to say. When you look, whenever I look at fashion shows, I tend to always look at Fear of God. It's definitely like a quiet sort of luxury. I love Jerry Lorenzo's style. It's super quiet, but a little bit urban, very chic, timeless type stuff. And when you look at, I'm going to reference it. I want to make sure I have the right name of him. I'm going to go back and look at it.
Okay.
If you pull up Fear of God or you pull up Jerry Lorenzo and then you look at Moon Knight, this is like almost exactly his vibe.
Yeah, I kind of get that. Here's the Jerry Lorenzo site here. It does have that feeling to it.
Very much. And when you look at his shows, I mean, a lot of them are very like a quiet type of luxury. And, in fashion right now, that's where everybody's saying the focus going towards, that high-end, quiet luxury where, it's a black blazer and everybody just sees it as a black blazer. They don't know how expensive it is, but it's timeless. It's something that you don't ever have to get rid of. So I feel like that's where that outfit sort of comes into play. It's very much like that.
We do have a question for you from the chat. This is from our buddy Neil. You don't read comics, but you have knowledge of characters, Pamela?
A little bit. And it's mostly because, growing up with my brother, who's a comic fanatic. And I do also think just naturally when, we were growing up, I always enjoyed, like, I have an older brother. I always want to see what he's doing. I want to know what he's up to. So I was always interested in things he was doing, whether it was my thing or not. And then you like, I remember I used to love reading your Spawn comic books. I loved those because I felt like it was like something like he was like the anti superhero.
I don't remember you reading Spawn at
Oh,
all.
I used to read them all.
Oh wow, he's
And I
still
loved
around.
them. So to me, I really got my influence from you, but then, comics really started to become more mainstream. And then I think the rest of the world really started to pay attention to like, wow, there's a lot of nostalgia here. There's a lot of people who are into this here. And then, obviously when you can make money off something and market, they decide to put more effort into it. And that's where you started to see all these great comic book movies coming out, where before they were kind of sucky. But now, I look forward to seeing like when Avengers comes out. Like I love those movies and stuff like that. Like I like to know who's going to be the main character. I mean, I think when we were younger, the only movies that were really comic book driven that everyone wanted to see was Batman.
Oh yeah.
Everybody wanted to see Batman. I always wanted to see Batman. I wanted to know who the new Batman was going to be, who was going to be better. I mean, I don't know who's everybody's favorite Batman is, but I always like to see, and you always wanted to know who was next, what's next.
How about this? Do you
Um,
remember? I don't know if you came with me for the first showing. Do you remember seeing Batman? Well, you were probably 8 years old at the time. Batman 1989
the
twice in the
original
same
Batman.
day. Yeah.
I remember the original Batman because that was one of the best ones.
Do you remember going to the movies to see it twice in the same day?
Yes, I do. Michael Keaton, I mean, I felt like he was the perfect, like, kind of, he didn't seem like he would be a superhero, right? He seemed like just an average guy.
Well,
And I think
Keaton's back.
that's, yeah. And
Keaton's back in the Flash.
yeah. So I don't know who everybody's favorite Batman is, but I feel like now, going forward, because people are so much more focused on this sort of genre, it's become its own phenomenon. And there's so much money put into it that it only gets better and better, which thank God, because they really weren't doing them justice when they first started coming out with these things. And I think now, because they understand that it's definitely, a niche type thing, there's a huge audience out there for it, that now they're more apt to spend the money on it and put great actors in it and put better writing behind it. And it's not so because what's in the comic books doesn't always translate to the screen, especially something old school like the old school Spider-Man comics and the old school Batman comics, because they were from a different time. So
Right.
it's like, how do you take those and make them new? It's by putting fresh blood in actors and putting cool new costumes. And this is why something like this Hellfire Gala is important, because it shows where comics have kind of gone to and how it's really coming into more mainstream and becoming more of its own thing with its own identity.
There is actually, you just reminded me, one last cover that we didn't cover here. I know I sent it to you because you're talking about how comics remained relevant in this kind of timeline, or comic films in these times rather. Um, and one of the big shockers from Hellfire Gala, which wasn't a shocker because Marvel pretty much told everybody right away, a character who was killed less than a month ago, maybe a month and a half at this point, I should say, Ms. Marvel, made her return during the Hellfire Gala. Pam, I don't know if you're familiar with Ms. Marvel. She did have a TV series recently, and she is going to be in the upcoming Marvels film. Oh, but let me show you that costume.
You sent this.
Yeah.
And
let
to me, it was just okay.
I mean, I'll give you a little bit of some information on her because I think that kind of is what inspired this. So she's a Muslim superhero from, I think her family immigrated from Pakistan, if I'm correct, rather. And I bring her up because one of the things you said as far as modernizing the characters, she always struck me. I remember as I was reading her initial run, high school student, kind of nerdy. She gets these powers. It kind of felt to me like, oh, this is like if they're doing a different take on Spider-Man, but in the modern times. Like this is what it must have been like reading early Spider-Man, where he's a student, but he's juggling this as well.
Yeah.
And she's from Jersey City, so they highlighted, especially in the early books, a lot of Jersey City landmarks and locations.
But I think it's also important. So you're saying that she has an Afghani background, and I
Pakistan.
think Pakistan. I mean, I think that's why, you see this nod to being like covered and things like that. But that's also an important part of, evolving comic books evolving over time, because in the 60s you would have never
Oh
would
yeah.
have kind of had that kind of superhero. But it's important to be represented. And I think, you look at someone like Black Panther, and that's really what he's doing, is representing a whole culture.
Well,
And
that
that's a
was
that's a heavy thing for comics that's a heavy topic.
that
They
was
become like an idol.
that was Stan Lee's big thing. He said that when he wanted the Black Panther to appear, you have to understand, you only saw him in costume for, I think, at least his first issue, maybe at the end of the first issue. And when he took it off and was like, oh, this is a black king, he wanted that like impact of, oh, he's not relegated to the background or something like that.
Yeah.
And but I mean, look, we could go on with that. I only have one other question for you, because I want to be respectful of your time, of course. Let's say Marvel calls you and says, Pam, we need a design for the Hellfire Gala. What is
Mhm.
one character? And you know what? I'm going to go easy on you because I know you're not a comic reader. So I'll even say you can pick anybody from Marvel, Image, or something else. One character that you would design a outfit for the Hellfire Gala. Who would you do? What are the elements you would use and why?
Okay, so I would say Storm, and it's because I always liked her.
Hmm.
I just always thought that she had that like super feminine power, and out of all the classic sort of characters, as they brought her up, as she's evolved, it's almost like she really became that like super feminine, earthy energy. So I would love to do something for her, just because I feel like you could do so much with her. Just
I'm gonna.
because
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm gonna show something to you too.
just
Um,
because of the whole, like, obviously, like the weather element, you could use so much of that. You could use so much different color. You could use so much different, like, embellishment on it if you wanted, like, because you could use thunderbolts, you could use clouds, you could use your sun. So I think you just have a lot to pull from. And I also think just because she's kind of the one that they've always really focused on as
yeah, and
being like one of the original
yeah,
focuses.
she had I think it was either the first year or last year, her dress basically looked like a giant cloud. I don't know if you remember that one.
Yeah, but it's
Um,
cool. I mean, like, I feel like that is something that it translates. You know who she is just by her costume. You know what
hmm.
I'm saying? Like, everybody knows who Storm is, just even because of her hair.
I'm going to
And,
show this to you.
I loved
Yeah.
when I had my platinum hair. So I always like, uh, someone actually sent me a picture of her not too long ago and was like, Pam, this is what you used to look like with your platinum hair.
I know you've heard Khaleesi before. I didn't know you heard Storm. I'm going to show this to you. This is not a Hellfire Gala costume. This is from a recent issue of Immortal X-Men. This is number 11. She had a date, I guess, and this is how she popped up for her date, which, of course, because it's X-Men, was interrupted. But you got me thinking when you were talking about her dress.
Sexy.
Yeah, it's a good dress.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it kind of reminds me what you're talking about. It's got those natural elements to it.
Yeah, I feel like you could play with a lot for her.
Yeah, I have to say, I think Durs already left the chat because as soon as you said Spawn, I would have seen him jump up. But in that, Pam, I want to thank you for your input. Maybe we'll have you look at other costumes outside of the gala at
Yeah, I
some
would
point
love
and
that.
give your input. But to everybody else, remember, tune into the live program tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern. I'm part of the Saturday morning spread right after Breakfast with Brian and way after, I guess you could say, Fanboy Prime and Madam Blaster. But to everybody else, peace, love, and comics. Take care.
Bye.